We're going to be talking about the skeletal system today, what its main functions are, what the components or the parts are. And so this is on textbook page 432. The main function of your skeletal system is that you are going to find it supports your body, it protects your body, specifically from organs like your brain, your heart, your lungs. It allows you to move in conjunction with the muscular system. It is a place that can store minerals like calcium and phosphorus, and it also produces some of your blood cells, red blood cells and white blood cells in the bone marrow. But when we talk about skeletons in general, humans have what we call an endoskeleton, meaning it's on the inside, as opposed to like crabs and insects that have exoskeletons, or their skeleton is on the outside. But one of the functions of the skeletal system is protection, and so it asks, how would a suit of armor be a good analogy for the skeletal system? Both a suit of armor and your skeleton would protect the body, and so that's why it's a good example or a good analogy for the function of the skeletal system. So we have protection of organs like your ribs protect your heart and your lungs, your vertebrae protect your spinal cord, your skull protects your brain. Storage, the hard outer layer of the bone is called compact bone. It stores minerals like calcium and phosphorus, and those minerals are necessary for your nerves and your muscles to work properly. We also have support. Your bones provide support for your body, make it possible for you to sit and stand upright. If you didn't have bones, you'd just be like a big bunch of goo, like a slug. Unlike a slug, you wouldn't be able to move around without your bones. And so here's kind of a picture of some of the main bones that are in your body. There are 206 bones in the skeletal system of an adult. You have more than that when you're born, but a baby has more bones than an adult because they fuse together, and so they, another function, blood cell production at the center of your bone, especially long bones, is a tissue called marrow. Your red marrow produces blood cells, and it's mostly in flat bones like your ribs, your pelvis, and your skull. The red and the white blood cells shown here are made in the red bone marrow. Also, movement. Bones play an important role in the movement by providing a place for the muscles to attach. So muscles pull on the bones to move the body. Without your bones, the muscles couldn't do their job of moving the body. So if we were to talk about the main parts or the components of the skeletal system, we would say that they are bones, ligaments, and cartilage. So the three parts are bones, ligaments, and cartilage. So this is the skeletal system, and there are two types of skeletons. There are exoskeletons, which are on the outside, like crabs and insects, and then there are endoskeletons, which is what we have. So do birds and some other organisms have their bones or their structure on the inside. So let's go. Mammals, birds, those are two examples. All right, 5 functions of the skeletal system. We said protection of organs and storage of calcium and phosphorus. We also have support or structure. Allows the humans to sit up, stand. We have blood cell production. The red and white blood cells are made in the red marrow of the bone. And we have movement because the bones are attached with tendons to the muscles. So we have the axial skeleton, which includes your skull, your vertebrae, and your ribs, and the appendicular skeleton, which includes everything that's attached, your arms, your legs, your shoulders, your pelvis. And so we're actually going to color the axial skeleton with a highlighter, so that would be your skull, your vertebrae, and your ribs are all part of the axial skeleton. And then if we get a different color, we're going to color the appendicular skeleton, which is your clavicle, your scapula, your arms, your hands, all of the appendages, your pelvis, your legs, feet. All of that is part of your appendicular skeleton. And then we're going to label some bones in your skeleton. There's actually 206. We're only going to label about 10%, so 20 bones. Okay, so we have a skeleton here with about 20 bones that are labeled. A lot of these bones have common names, but we need to learn the scientific name. So you might commonly call it a skull, but it actually is called a cranium. And you might call it your jaw, but it's actually called the mandible. The breastbone in the center of your chest is actually called the sternum. The collarbone is actually called the clavicle. The shoulder blade on your back, it's kind of hard to see here, but it's called the scapula. Your large bone in the top of your arm is called the humerus. You individually, these are called ribs, but all together it's called your rib cage, and it protects your lungs and your heart. The bones around your spinal cord are called your vertebrae. And your fingers and your toes are both called phalanges. So down here at the bottom, at the very distal end or the very end, are called phalanges. Okay, and the large bone in your leg is called the femur. Your kneecap is actually called the patella, not Nutella, but patella. Nutella is chocolatey deliciousness. Patella is your kneecap. There are two bones in the lower leg. The tiny thin one on the outside is the fibula, most common one to get broken in your leg. And the large one that's on the side as the side of your big toe is called the tibia. I remember fibula because fib is like a little white lie, and fibula is the little white bone in your leg. In your feet, there are a lot of bones, feet and hands. And so the phalanges are your toes. Just up from the phalanges are called metatarsals. And then your ankle the ankle bones are actually called tarsals, which is similar to what's in your hand. Your fingers are called phalanges, and then further up you have metacarpals, but we're only going to label the wrist bones, which are carpals. If you've ever heard of someone having carpal tunnel syndrome surgery, that's because the bones here are infringing on the nerve. Your hip bone or your pelvis. Okay, and then you have two small bones in your arm. If your hand is facing upward, the one that's on the side of the pinky is the ulna, and the one that's on the side of your thumb is the radius. And I always remembered the word up, U and P, ulna and pinky, so then I knew the other one was the radius. Okay, so those are 20 out of the 206 bones that you have in your body.